want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. This is Brad. I am here as always with my good friend Ray, mostly because I did not win $1.2 billion last night.
I know,
because if I'd have won
right?
that, I wouldn't be talking to anybody for a long time,
Not
except for
even
my
me.
lawyer.
I suppose I can forgive you. Illinois, someone in Illinois won it. I guess they say the winning ticket was sold there.
One person, one ticket at
One
least.
person. Yikes! Wow,
Yeah.
crazy. That's a lot of dough. Ray, me.
As one of our friends, Michelle on Twitter said, she's like, like how long do you give work? Like how long until you quit? And I'm like, you would call them and quit? Like you're dedicated. I promise you, if I win $1 billion, I'm just not showing up anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up once I have money in my pocket just to say hi to everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm not calling out. I'm gone.
Would you make it rain?
I
show up at the office.
I like
and
my
make
coworkers. I probably would, and I would legit just let them keep the money because I like my coworkers. I've told my boss and my other coworker direct. I'm like, if I ever win big, like I'll give you each $1 million without a hat, just for being good people and being fun to work with. So
there you go. Like I kind of the same way. I'd be spreading the money around a little bit, having some fun, like to celebrate. It's so hot up here. I have experienced the heat in Boston, in Calgary. It's super hot right now. Everyone is just sweating like crazy. Very quickly, I know I just heard this on the news in Kentucky. If we have any Canes fans there, we sure hope that you're safe. Kentucky, with the raining and the floods, and people have died, and it's out of control there. Certainly hope that not just our listeners are safe, that everyone could be safe.
Yikes.
But it's crazy everywhere. Like weather is just extremes, one side to the other. You know what I mean? It's just it's nuts.
I'm a few hundred miles away, and we're in a severe drought.
Yeah.
The Charles River, which feeds, that's like the main river that feeds through Boston. There are parts of it now that are normally not that deep, but there are parts of the river you can walk across and not get your knees wet.
Wow.
I mean, places that are normally 3 or 4 feet deep. I mean, that's when you think about a river that's, hundreds of yards wide, that's a lot of water.
That is a lot of water down. My goodness. We won't though commiserate about the weather so much, because we as Hurricanes have other things to commiserate about on one hand and celebrate elsewhere. So we're gonna dive right into it, Brad. And unfortunately, we don't have a guest today. It's summer. If you can join us, that's great. But so many people are out there enjoying themselves. It's fine. You're stuck with just me and Brad. Brad,
kind of a short one today too, because
100%.
My nephew turns 9 tomorrow, so I will be
nice.
As soon as we cut recording, I'm in the car on the way to a 9-year-old Pokemon birthday party.
Outstanding. And my daughter, oddly enough, turns 23 tomorrow as well. So
happy birthday.
Again, more things that we have in connection with each other. Very, very strange.
Crazy.
The weird vibe going on. So Hurricanes fans, jerks, Caniacs, our greatest fears seem to have come true in the loss of Nino Niederreiter. Nino signs an agreement with the Predators, and I, for one, although I wish we had them, I understand why we couldn't necessarily sign him or afford him to get, where we needed to go to fit in the right pieces. What was stunning for me, excuse me, is how great a fit Nino Niederreiter is for the Predators and the way they play their game. Like that, if he couldn't play Carolina Hurricane hockey, look at the way the Predators play their game. Man, he is a natural fit and he is going to succeed there. Let's hope that he's not succeeding against us, I think is the key there. I don't know what do you think, Brad? Like this one
Yeah,
hurt.
they're a smart hockey club, right? They pick up people who fit their system. They took in Holla when he left Carolina. Now they have Niederreiter. He's a gritty player. We know what he can bring. I think he gets sometimes overrated in scoring ability because he had so many game winners, and I think some of that's a little bit of luck. But
Yeah.
he fits them perfectly. The biggest thing that I've seen is, a lot of people want to talk about he got a 2-year, $4 million deal, $4 million a season, 2 years, which is way shorter and cheaper, I think, than any of us assumed.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more.
I thought he was looking for like a 5x6, and I thought if we could sign him at like 5x5, we'd be great. But they, 2x4, and I saw a lot of Canes fans upset saying why we could afford that? Why didn't they do it? And the reality is they don't have space for him. He's clearly, in my opinion, once it got to that point, he's not in the plan anymore. Because 2 years at $4 million for Nino, I would pay that. Yeah. However, with the way the organization looks, because we said all these things fit together, right? None of these things are isolated. You can't make one of these moves without the others.
Yeah.
So you have a top 9 now of Jarvis, Aho, Turbo, Patches, KK, Svechnikov, Kase, Stahl, and Fost. So if you bring Nino back, who sits? Maybe Kasha.
Kasha, yeah.
But he's only costing you $1.5 million, and if he can stay healthy, he's better than Nino.
Yeah.
So just for the folks who are upset, I feel it too. Like I love the guy, right? But it's not at this point. It wasn't about the contract. At some point in these negotiations, we didn't hear it from Don, but at some point Don said, "We're not re-signing Niederreiter. We're moving on," and they did so. And we just didn't know. So with the top 9 set as it is, you don't bring back even at 2x4, which I think is a steal for the Predators.
Yeah,
that's just not in the cards.
Especially with a farm team that we have and up and coming talent that there's space for, that are going to be fighting for spots, and you got to give the guys in the farm team a little bit of hope that there's space that they can work their way up to. You know what I mean? And you don't want them relegated to believing that, okay, looking at the lineup above us, wow, that's going to be tough for us to crack. Looks like I might have another year in the minors, and no hockey player wants that. They want to get to the top echelon, right? That's where they want. A very weird offshoot on the discussion when you brought up Kasha. Do you know that the Hurricanes signed him for the exact same contract that the Toronto Maple Leafs offered him?
I do, actually. I knew that, and I said he said my chances are better to win in Carolina.
Isn't that was surprising?
Feels good.
Makes my
heart warm.
Well, it makes my heart warm. I'll tell you what. This might be one of the things that we say is so much different and perhaps better, that makes Carolina a better place to play, because look at how bright the spotlight is in Toronto and how bright the spotlight is, and maybe Kasha is needing a change and can actually flourish a little bit here. So that might be a big steal for us. I mean, I think it is a steal for us.
High risk, high reward on that one, straight up. If he's healthy, I think he can put, pucks in the net. That's the big thing.
100%. So that was interesting. And now we've talked about the unfortunate aspects. Nino, all the best to you until you play us. Fill the net, play well, do well. We love you. Ethan Bear signed to the 1-year prove it contract. I think that's the safest thing to call. Like, this is a 1-year deal and kind of a prove it. We know that COVID was just devastating to him. The way he was playing before and the way he was playing after, we've said it over and over again, just diametrically different. Like, I mean, he just wasn't the same player. And now that he's had a whole off season, he can get back into shape, get worked up and go and do what he can do, because we've seen the talent. We know it's there. Give him a 1-year deal and show us, and then we can talk again next year about something maybe bigger.
Great deal for Bear all around. So for most people may not realize, you have a limited number of contracts. Once you're on, I think it's your 4th contract, it's a free agency contract, right? Unrestricted.
Right.
So this is basically knocking out a whole contract for him that would have otherwise been several years long. 1 year, $2.2 million. His qualifying offer rate was $2.5 million. And so I know some people have wondered, why is he signing a contract for 2.5 when they'd already offered, 2.2 when they'd offered 2.5, and he went to arbitration. You know, you would think to get more money or more term.
Yeah.
And the big deal there, folks, is the 1-year contract that they offered him is a one-way deal. He plays in the NHL. If he were to be waived and sent to the minors and wasn't picked up on waivers, technically he could play in the AHL, but it would still be for $2.2 million.
Yeah.
His $2.5 million qualifying offer was a 2-way deal. They could have sent him down to Chicago and paid him an AHL salary. That's why he took less money versus arbitration. Is he got the 1-way deal. A lot of people have said, great, the Canes have now announced it. He's not being traded. We're good to go. False.
I don't think that's necessarily the truth.
So here's the problem: is on defense, you have Slavin and Bernsey, you have Pesce and Shea.
Yeah.
For your 5-6 spot, you have Coughlin, who is a guy that could come in and play.
Yep.
You have Chatfield, who makes less than $1 million, who can play. You now have Gardiner at $4 million and Bear at $2.2 million. And Bear and Gardiner are wild cards, right?
Yes, they sure are.
Bear had a bad second half, although I thought he played great the first half. Gardner's a wild card. If he's healthy and he can play the way he did 4 years ago,
where does he
wonderful.
fit in? Yeah.
So here's the dilemma. I got into a back and forth with somebody on Twitter about this, and I said, because they said, "Oh, you move Gardiner," and I think we wires crossed a little bit, because it said, yes, if I have to choose, I move Gardiner, because I don't want to pay a guy $4 million to be a 5-6 guy. However, if I'm any other GM in the league and I know I have to move a contract because we only have $1.8 million in cap space and we still have to sign Necas, I want Bear, because he's at least played last year and he's half the money. So this is one of those. I always assume NHL GMs aren't dumb and will pick the better option. But the person I was talking to was right in that NHL GMs do dumb things all the time. And somebody might take that Gardner contract if you pair it with something of value. Right? But something's got to give in order to sign Marty Necas, and they will, or they'll trade him and bring something back. But you cannot tie up $5.5 million in Gardner and Bear to be a 5-6 guy. One of those guys is either getting bought out or getting traded. Something's going to happen to one of those two folks.
A trade deadline, I think, a trade deadline move, perhaps. And Necas, who remains unsigned at the moment, I think he fits into that as well. As
he does. That might be the carrot that gets rid of the bad contract.
And not only gets rid of the bad contract, but he could be, I mean, that could be the key to us getting that lineup changing, lineup boosting playoff run that we would be looking for. You know what I mean? That one guy who might be out there where everyone's selling, and, you know, who knows? I mean, there's still a lot of so many possibilities out there. And with all of that, we've got, of course, the salary cap. And I know you've got some cap information for us to kind of, it sets the parameters for what we can and can't do as a team. I love saying we. It's like
I do too.
I feel, you know, it's my, I know it's not we, but it feels like we. I love saying it.
Yeah, the people who get mad about people saying we for sports teams, I don't get it. Like, yes, I know I wasn't technically on the ice. Like, I get it. I'm a paid staff member, but I care as much as they do.
100%. 100%.
So for cap space, Cap Friendly says the Canes have 1.88 million in cap space. Marty Necas still has to be signed.
Still.
Pulvari signed a 1-year, $3 million deal. I can't remember the other name in my head who just signed for about a $2 million deal. And I said, Marty Necas is going to get a contract in the middle. Like, I think those are the upper and lower limits. He's going to get 2 and change on a 1-year deal, or maybe a 2-year deal from not arbitration, but from the Canes. So either of those numbers put you above the cap, which is fine. You could be 10% above the cap until, I think it's like opening night.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the day, but there is a date at which you have to be back under the cap. But at least for the summer, we can be 10% over. So somebody's going. It's just a matter of whom. Now, that whom could be Marty Necas himself. It could be a combination of Necas and Gardiner or Bear, and a pick in exchange for another forward. I don't think you need. What I don't think you need is defense. Unless you're shipping out 2 defensemen to upgrade, you've got defenses set. But even in the top, the top forwards, I mentioned the top 9. And then right now, under contract for your 4th line, you have Martinook, Jack Drury, Nosen, and potentially Ryan Zingle, could come back. Now, he's a guy who's probably going to stick in the AHL. Nason's another guy who has had points, has been brought up and done okay, but really is an excellent AHL guy.
Yeah.
And that's without Marty Necas. So, I feel like something's coming up between the Necas Gardiner Bear triangle that's going to happen here.
Do you see a sign-in trade?
I would kind of think that if they're going to trade him, that's what's going to happen. Is they're going to get him under contract at a reasonable amount. The team that they're going to is going to know exactly what they're getting, right? With at least a year's worth of term, maybe maybe 2, for him, depending. And then the return is the big thing, because Gardiner and Bear are both only under contract for a year.
Yeah.
So if you sign Necas to a 1-year contract, it's a long rental, but it's kind of a rental. So then what do you get back? And is that something you can flip? There are still a few free agents on the market, and the Hurricanes don't have the cap space for these guys.
Yeah.
But so Klingberg just got picked up to the Ducks. He got a 1-year, $7 million contract, which is way less term than he expected. Although I think he was thinking 4 or 5 years at $7 million, and the market for him just completely went away once the Hurricanes picked up Burns.
Yeah.
Kadri's out there. Phil Kessel is out there. Evan Rodriguez is a guy who could be a value player who's out there, because we're really talking about, a bottom 6 guy, right? I mean, we'd love to have a guy like, who could put, the puck in the net in the way that like a Kadri can, or like Phil Kessel has done in the past. But there are some low dollar value guys out there who could really help. Danton Heinen, I think from the Penguins, is available.
Right.
Ryan Donato is, I think, in Seattle. 16 goals, 31 points. I mean, so there's some options out there that could give you some breathing room, because I'm thinking about not just to start the season, but if you sign Necas, even if you get it under the projected cap space, maybe you can get, you get rid of, maybe Bear goes out or Gardner goes out, you sign Necas. You still want wiggle room, right?
Yeah.
In March, you want to be able to get better. So you're going to need cap space. So if I'm Don Waddell, I'm going to try and package those guys and move them, and then bring in maybe one of these cheaper guys who's I can get for $1 million.
Yeah.
Who's just a proven lunch bucket guy. He's going to come in. He's going to work well on that 3rd, maybe 4th line.
Mm-hmm.
Do his job. He doesn't need to score a lot of points. He's going to come in and just give the Canes, that body to forecheck with, and then we see where they go from there.
So I think that if we're talking about packaging up players to deal them the in a sign and trade as far as Necas is concerned, that it would have to be a multiple year, if only for the fact that the team that receives him is going to want him more than just a rental. You know what I mean? Like they
Sure.
want to
Yeah.
have a little bit of control over his career and what he's doing, like, because the trading partners out there are going to be looking for something. Where does Natchez fit in? And are those teams okay with having just a 1 year guy? You know what I mean? Like for us, as far as the Hurricanes go, signing him to a 1 year prove it contract, and in the idea of keeping him, to me, seems to make more sense as a whole prove it sort of deal. But it doesn't make him as tradable
Right. And you're
if
right.
it's only
So
1 year.
if the Hurricanes know they have a sign and trade in place, they'll give him whatever terms the other team wants. Is I
Once,
think the point you're
exactly.
getting at. I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
So yeah, that's my thought there. There's still so much time left. There's still, like, it's funny, the training camps are going to be coming up relatively quickly, and we've already seen, rookie camps and guys skating and stuff like that. Like, that's already been happening for a lot of teams. So I say there's a lot of time left, when really it's August tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, things are going to be happening. It's going to be interesting, so
Hey, it sneaks up on you.
it does. It totally does. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what Waddell, who has done a magnificent job in the off season to make this team better. We said it in our last podcast. Are they better than they were before? Absolutely, absolutely. And that, losing Nino. Now, here's your thing, because we had said the way it is now, knowing that we've signed Bear, knowing that we've lost Nino, we're still with we are a better team now. Yeah, in your opinion? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Like, we're still the
100%.
same, even without Nino. Um, this is gonna be it's gonna be a great season. A lot of other teams have gotten better over time. We said how, Kadri would be lovely. But people are still saying, oh, the Hurricanes could sure use him if they landed a Kadri, that would be great. And one report that I had heard suggests that Kadri the Boston Bruins are in the lead for signing him up. I still can't believe he hasn't been signed. This is crazy.
It's starting to feel like the Klingberg thing, right? Where I was like, he's going to go early and set the market, is what I said, and he's just kind of sitting there, and I'm not quite sure why. The Bruins certainly are going to need some help, because right now the Bruins are waiting to sign 2 UFA centers, Krejci and Bergeron, who are both north of 30. That's their plan. Like, that's what they intend to do.
I can't imagine Bergeron going anywhere other than Boston.
No,
why that isn't dealt with now. I mean, Bergeron might be, and here's the thing, he wants to be a Bruin in a bad way. He might be a guy that takes a haircut for the betterment of the team, because that's how much he loves
and
being
he
a
can
Bruin.
still play, but
yeah,
if I'm Sweeney, and my plan is to grab these 2 centers who are, north of 30 and not getting better, not bad, but not getting better, that's not really a good plan.
No, well, they need support.
They need
support for those
Kadri
guys.
would help offset some of that for sure.
No question.
I had one for you.
Go ahead.
I believe since we spoke last, Matthew Tkachuk traded out of Calgary.
Yeah.
For Jonathan Huberdeau, right, and Mackenzie Weegar.
Wow.
And on the surface, I don't get it. So if you don't know, so Matthew Tkachuk, gets traded to Florida along with a 4th round pick, and immediately signs, what was it, a 7-year extension?
Long term, yeah.
Long term. The Flames get Huberdeau, who was the Panthers. He had 115 points for the Panthers last year. He was third in the NHL with 30 goals and 85 assists. And they get Mackenzie Weegar, who is his projected wins above replacement as a defenseman is 97%. His finishing is 82. His offense is 97. His defense is 95. And to the best of our knowledge, the Flames only have them for this year. Huberdeau at least has said he would be open to signing an extension in Calgary, which is you're going to say that no matter what.
Yeah.
But what if they don't? What if they traded Matthew Tkachuk for two guys who could help them this 1 year and then they are gone? Not to mention, Florida got Tkachuk, but they gave up basically one of their key offensive people and one of their key defensive people. Is Matthew Tkachuk that much better than Jonathan Huberdeau? I don't think so.
No, they just different styles of play, different everything. I think this was a masterful deal on Treliving's part. And I would say Calgary, like when you're talking who won the trade, if you want to break it down, to me, Calgary won the trade, even if they are unable to re-sign Huberdeau and Weegar. Even if they still won the deal, because they lost one Johnny Hockey and got another. And Huberdeau was an MVP candidate at last season. He was amazing. And I think that it's going to be great. Now, to be fair, he's not going to have the type of lineup around him that he had in Florida. So maybe asking for, over 100 points out of him in Calgary is a stretch. But I think both, if they could land Huberdeau and keep him, wow.
For me, it's all about, can they resign? If they can resign, even if it's just Weegar, if they can re-sign either of these guys long term, it's a win for Calgary.
100%.
In the short term, Huberdeau is as close to Johnny Hockey as you're going to get to replace him with.
No question.
And you did score, basically your new number one defenseman.
Yeah. Well,
right. I mean, or maybe number two guy. I mean, he's going to be on the top pair. I mean, let's at least say he's a top pair guy.
No question. You're right.
So initially I was like, Florida just fleeced him, right? And then I said, well, depending on how things played out, this is 100% Calgary. To me, it all depends on the term.
Yeah.
Because I forgot that somebody who we know very well, one Mr. Paul Maurice, is now the coach in Florida.
Yep.
And Paul Maurice, you're not going to see the points being put up for Florida, I think, that you did before, right? He was brought in to be more defensive-minded. That's who he is. That's in his soul. So you gave up. I mean, I'm just looking at the points that you sent out the door for Tkachuk. And not that Tkachuk isn't a great player, but holy smokes.
Yeah, Tkachuk going in there, I mean, it's gonna be it's a crazy trade. I loved it for Calgary. The people, fans in Calgary, people that I've spoken to, they love it, and now they're just hoping to lock them down. And one of the things that Treliving said is, like, with Gaudreau leaving and Tkachuk bailing, it was like the city of Calgary was getting a bad reputation as a bad place to play. No one wants to play here, blah, blah, blah. And it ticked him off. It made him angry. And I think he used the word that, we can't use here because we're friendly, but he was really angry about that.
Not happy.
And he knows that what I think all of us here know in Calgary is that when they arrive, you're going to fall in love with the play. Look, the Saddle Dome is a dump, but the fans are fantastic. I'll say that. And they love their Flames. And when they see the response that they get and they're welcomed here, I think there's a good chance they could sign them both. I really do.
That would make this such a win for the Calgary Flames over
No
Florida.
question. No question.
Florida's a team I looked at going, okay, they're going to be a great team again this year. And with this trade, there's just that little inkling in the back of my brain that says, watch for Florida, because Florida could still be really good, or Florida could turn into a dumpster fire.
Well, look, Kachuk plays a very physical game, and they might enjoy I mean, that's gonna be good for that squad. You know
To
what I mean?
To me, they brought him in solely to beat the Lightning, right?
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
We sent out points to bring in fewer points, but Kachuk is somebody who we can put up against Tampa Bay's best, and he will play every bit as dirty as Kucherov, and he will throw elbows like Sergachev, and no problem.
He's physical. He's feisty. He's that. He's of his dad's name, right? Isn't that the way he played? He's power forward through and through, right? Difficult to play against all the time. So what an amazing deal. That was fun, kind of sitting there watching it, because I felt very bad for Flames fans when they lost Gaudreau, and to have this, it kind of flips the script a little bit. You know what I mean? It makes things a little bit better, but it proves just what a great GM that they have here too.
Right.
There's no question.
And to bring this back to the Canes, it sounded like, it used to be that the answer from the Canes front office every year was, we like our squad. And you just sat there and you just put your head in your hands and you cried and got it out of your system. And now it's the opposite. Every player that comes up, it's like, we hear the Canes are in on so-and-so. Which honestly, I think it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's like, we're going to move Kachuk. I think Don Waddell makes a phone call and says, what do we have that will make this work?
Yeah.
And if it's too much, then he goes, no. But he at least, I think, picks up the phone and makes
tires.
the call. Right, exactly.
Yeah, he kicks the tires to see, right?
And that's all I'm really asking for from a GM. I mean, that's not all I'm really asking for. I want him to make good moves. I want him to bring in good people. I don't want to hear any more Patrick Kane talk on Twitter.
No more.
Like, I've heard very little, and like the few things that I've heard is too much. But what I really want out of my GM is somebody who goes, it is business. It's not personal. And can I make the club better? And if there's a guy who's available, if he's better than what I got, then I say, what could happen here? So I love the fact that even if Don just made a call about Kachuk and said, hey, we've got a Bear or a Gardiner and a Necas and a first round pick or whatever, that's great. I mean, nobody's going to beat that Florida offer, though. That's such an overpay, in my opinion. Wow. And like I said, for me, I think the more I think about it, you're right. I think Calgary wins that trade, even if they don't re-sign. But if you're Calgary, I think you got to do anything you can to keep at least maybe Huberdeau in town, which just is a fleecing at that point.
And Treliving is masterful GM. There's been, since he's been on, there's been many situations where things looked bleak. They didn't think that they could get deals done on certain players that they wanted to keep, and suddenly out of nowhere, boom, signed. Everything's great. He's very good negotiator. Calgary fans are not like the Boston fans questioning the GM. You know what I mean? And hating on they love what he's doing. He's doing such a great job. So Brad, August 9th, the World Junior Hockey Championships will return here in Alberta after the COVID blow up that kind of collapsed everything. IIHF has managed to bring it all back, and we're going to get
and they're going to play the women's tournament.
And they're going to play the women's tournament.
I'm just interjecting that because originally they had just canceled the women's tournament, and there was enough outcry from people that they said, nope, we're going to reschedule them both.
Yeah, it was a difficult spot for them, but they had to do it, and they did the right thing in the end with a little cajoling. So we won't give them full props, but they did the right thing. Peer pressure works. And that's all that it does. It absolutely does. And so that means, world junior teams will be here in Alberta, in Edmonton, and in Red Deer, and they'll be playing it all. And that in any other case would be exciting. We here in Canada absolutely love the World Juniors. We just love watching these young kids play hockey, and the talent is great. Sadly, Hockey Canada. As a Canadian, I cannot tell you how disgusted and ashamed I am of what has been going on in Hockey Canada tied to junior clubs. You better jump in.
Sure.
I'm messed up.
Really what Ray and I wanted to say was we're aware of what's going on with Hockey Canada. We know that you're probably aware. It's something that we would normally talk about, as we did with the Kyle Beach scandal.
Yeah.
Especially because we're going to wrap things up shortly today. We don't want to force fit discussion about this topic into 10 or 15 minutes, because this is much like the Kyle Beach. I think we'll do a separate episode for the adults so that we can just have an honest conversation about what's going on. We might see if there's anybody who wants to join us and give their input. But Hockey Canada is just a vile cesspool that needs to be completely overhauled. And we say it's hockey culture, and it is hockey culture, but it's not just hockey culture. These things exist throughout sports cultures in general. This is not something specific to Canada. I assure you, USA Hockey is probably praying nothing gets leaked about their, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just wanted to say we're aware. It's something that is important enough that we want to dedicate some real time to it, collect our thoughts about it. And much like the Kyle Beach scandal, where there were a couple of tidbits of information, and then Westhead kind of broke open the dam and a flood of information come out. Oof. It feels like more information is coming out kind of quickly and at a more rapid pace lately. So we're hoping in the next week or so, we'll get some real information out there. You know, Hockey Canada is now on record saying, like, you know, we just want to do what's best for the victims. That's a lie, because if, you know, I understand they're like, oh, we sign NDAs with these and all. I get that. You have intentionally put yourself in a legal spot where you don't have to talk. Good for you. You have good lawyers. The fact that Hockey Canada keeps a $13 million fund to pay people off, and the fact that apparently one person is accused in 4 separate incidents, is you're not helping victims at all. The only way you help the victims is start naming names. As long as the players know that you're going to protect them, they're going to keep doing that. And that's not okay. We're not going to get deep dive into that today. It deserves its own time. It deserves some real thought. And normally we speak from the heart. We don't really have a script. Those people have been guests on. No, we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
Much like the Kyle Beach episode, I don't think that's what we want to do when we talk about the Hockey Canada issues. So we will come back to that over the next couple of weeks as more information comes out to talk more about, you know, probably not just Hockey Canada, but hockey culture and sports culture, because, you know, Deshaun Watson's on the field today practicing in training camp in football. Here's another athlete who's being given a pass because they're good at sports ball. It's not acceptable.
I swear to you that we are not pushing this under the rug. That we are. I want to address this, and you're right. Speaking from the heart would make this a very, very difficult discussion for me to have, because right now my head is swimming with the anger and the wanting to point fingers and say, come on, like, let's get this dealt with, because it's gone on long enough in all aspects of sport, like you said. And just when we get more information, we will address this in its entirety. And I assure you, that's what we're about, right? That's what we've been all about here in the Storm Cellar. And we are going to address this, but we just need to we're running out of time, and
Sure.
this is a conversation that's going to be, at least hour long, right? Like there's a lot here to unpack, a lot.
And to be fair, I'm sure there are plenty of people that listen to us that are like, I don't want to hear about that, or I don't want to talk about that, which is totally fine. That we get it. So I think by doing a separate episode just for that, the people who want to hear about either our thoughts or give their takes about it can. And the people who are like, hockey is my escape, I just want to concentrate on the Canes, have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's where that stands. To end on a positive note, Ray.
Yeah.
The Athletic did a poll of, I forgot how many people it was, and they were talking about who your 2023 Stanley Cup Finals. Who's going to win, and any idea who the number one team was that people picked to win the cup this year?
I think, and now there's actually been a few polls out there. The ones that I've heard about think that the Avs can repeat, that they're in the number one spot, but Carolina is very close. And in fact, I think Carolina might be the team that comes out of the East. And that was strictly based on Burns and Patches coming to us.
Yeah.
On that alone. But that's a guess, because like I said, there's been a few polls and people throwing their opinions out on where we stand in the Vegas booking and all the rest of it. Am I anywhere close?
You are. So I think it was 38% thought the Avs will repeat, and 31 and change thought that the Hurricanes would take that title. So, and that's a big deal, Caniacs, because we always talk about we don't get the team doesn't get the recognition they deserve because it's a small market. People are starting to take notice. So
they're starting. Yeah,
I would say that's good news number one.
It is.
And one more. I saw this that they posted last night. The Athletics has hired Haley Salvian as their first ever national writer dedicated toward women's hockey.
Nice.
And then she'll also be covered. So congratulations to Haley at Haley_Salvian for being their first full-time women's hockey writer. That is a huge boon for women's hocky.
100% it is.
So congratulations to her.
Athletic does great work, don't they?
They
do. Honestly, as an organization, they are fantastic in all aspects, and they're doing it the right way. Love hearing that. I mean, you know what? It's funny. The Hurricanes are getting more notice. Just to circle back to that, they are getting more notice, but still under the radar. Because
it's like a knife
weird.
edge, right? They're just
that's exactly it.
Right at that point where things can break either way.
That's a perfect description. It's on the knife edge of being under the radar, but having recognition as well. And it's a nice place to be. It's a nice place to be.
It is.
Brad, we've had a great episode, and we managed to keep it relatively tight. We're only 7 minutes over what we said we were going to be, which is amazing.
Really good for us.
So we're, we'll not break our arms patting ourselves on the back, but well done. We got that figured out. And now really, I guess there's just one thing left to say.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.